Hi there, this is Timmy, and you're watching Timmy Wah and what have you. I've got my lovely wife Rachel here with me. Hi.
Hi.
Rachel's here. This is part two of our walk through Disneyland. We're going to tell you all about all the rides, including some of our favorites, and give you some history and some background and just some good tips and tricks to get you through those rides the best way you can. So today we're gonna take we took our stroll last week through Main Street and through the railroad, and now we're gonna hang a right on the hub and go right into Tomorrowland. So right at the very entrance of Tomorrowland is the Astro Orbiter, and I'll let Rachel take it from here.
So we'll start out by saying that if you haven't been to Disneyland recently, they're taking out the rocks, the French fry rocks, at the beginning of Tomorrowland. So if you haven't been there recently, you'll notice quite a change there. Kind of ugly, right? But
Yeah.
still,
Depending on depending on who you watch on YouTube or who you follow, they either love them or hate them. A lot of people hate them. They're just kind of weird and gregarious. So,
but it's something that reminds you of Disneyland,
Right.
right? Kind of always been there. So the Astro Orbiter is a spinny ride. So a lot of people may not have ridden it. It's kind of like the teacups, right? I don't know if I've ever ridden it personally.
I like Dumbo too. Yeah.
Yeah, kind of like Dumbo too. But actually, you're right. You know what? I actually think I have ridden the Astro Orbiter. I'm not totally positive, but so it is a spinny ride. It's in all the parks except for Tokyo, and it opened in its current form at Disneyland in May of 1998. There are 12 vehicles, 2 riders per vehicle, and it's one of those that I believe you can go up and down in your car, in your individual car, as you want to. But because there are only 12 vehicles, 2 riders per vehicle, it's one of those that they can only load at least 24 or at the most 24 people per ride. Then you have to wait the minute and 30 seconds for the whole ride to finish. Then they unload, and then they load another 24 people. So it does take a little longer, which is why you'll see that the lines are longer than a lot of the other lines. Any height can ride. Expecting mothers can ride. So it is going to be a very long line compared to some of the other rides that you may see where it's a constant streaming line of guests that can get on and off the ride. So no wheelchair accessible. You meaning you do have to exit your wheelchair to get on the ride, and there are no fast passes available for this ride. A little bit of back history about the Astro Orbiter. It opened in 1956 at Disneyland, and it was called the Astro Jets. In 1964, it was converted and renamed the Tomorrowland Jets, and then in 1967, it was moved to be on top where the what's it called, the People Mover was, when the People Mover closed, and it was renamed the Rocket Jets on top of the Rocket Jets. Sorry, it was moved to be on top where the People Mover was, and it was renamed the Rocket Jets in 1967, and that closed in 1997, and then in its current form opened in 1998. So just a little bit of history about the Astro Orbiter. Fun ride for the little kids, not necessarily a fun ride for the big kids that don't like, or big adults that don't like the spinny rides, but yeah.
So it'll be interesting to see what they do with that ride. They just refurbished it this summer. They took it down, took it apart piece by piece, put it right back up, shined it up real nice, and it came up the same. Some people were speculating whether it was going to come back at all, or if they were going to redesign it in some way, because that whole new Tomorrowland look, that was kind of like that steampunk look they went with, and it's still the same way in Discoveryland at Disneyland Paris. But with them getting rid of the French fry rocks, which are all part of that theming, it's interesting to see what may happen with that ride in the future. Because with all the spinning globes and planets and stars and stuff, you never know what they're going to do.
Yeah.
So that's interesting. But we're going to keep walking, and just past onto the right of the Astro Orbiter is Star Tours. Now, Star Tours has had 2 different versions. So originally it opened in 1987 as Star Tours. It was a motion simulator ride, and up to 40 riders per vehicle. You sat back and you watched a little interaction with a robot called Rex, who was the pilot, and then you went through these different adventures, and the ride moved. It was on a, you didn't know it, but the ride was pretty much stable, but it just was on a gimbal, and it kind of just flexed and moved to give you that simulation of movement. It was pretty cool invention at the time. And at the time, it opened up as the ride, or the vehicle, was called the Star Speeder 3000, and it was a tourism company in space. So it was kind of a cool concept. And then it closed in July of 2010 and reopened the next year in June of 2011 as Star Tours The Adventure continues. It was
closed that long?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, and it opened up, and it was more based on the prequels because the prequels had just come out in the last several years. They updated all the films. They updated the ride. They made it a 3D ride, so now you had 3D glasses. You also had C-3PO was the pilot. He didn't want to be. He was doing some repairs, and he got caught up in it, and he ended up being the pilot. And what they did, they just turned this simulation ride up to 100 because they randomized all the different segments. So you have a total of 18 segments. You have 4 opening segments, 4 destination segments, 6 hologram message segments, and 4 ending segments. And if you put them all together and randomize it, you have a total of 384 possible experiences riding that ride. And so it's very unlikely, theoretically, that you would never get the same ride.
384.
Yep.
I feel like we get the same ride 3 out of the 4 times that we are there.
Yeah, sometimes I feel like they mangle that a little bit. One of the cool things they added in the hologram segment was they pick out a random rider as the rebel spy. And they show a picture of that person that they take a shot of from the in-ride cameras, and they name that person the rebel spy. And then the dark side, Darth Vader, whoever it is either trying to get the rebel spy, or the Yoda, or the BB-8, or Princess Leia, whoever is trying to save the rebel spy and get them to their destination. And so that's kind of a cool little interactivity. Rachel,
this last time. Okay, so
go ahead.
Yeah. Well, I was going to say we heard a little secret online that the way that you can be the rebel spy, get picked, be the chosen one, is when you first get on, don't put your glasses on yet, just buckle your seatbelt and just sit real still. Kind of a half smile on your face, look forward, and they'll come in and pick you at random. But we've never been chosen until this last time, and when Wyatt was chosen as the rebel spy.
Yes, and Disney, you goofed, because we waited all this time. We went on that ride so many times in the last 18 plus years, trying to be the rebel spy. And every time you walk off the ride, right there when you get into the merchandise, the little store, there's a shirt hanging up that says, "I was the rebel spy." And last time Wyatt got picked, just this last time a few weeks ago, they didn't sell that shirt anymore. They said they don't have it anymore. They're not going to sell it anymore. So Disney, if you're watching or listening, you goofed.
Bring that shirt back. We will buy it because Wyatt needs it.
So
he was the rebel spy.
It's definitely one of those things that Disney just goes the extra little inch and a half to make the experience more magic and more personal and more meaningful. You're not just riding a ride to get the thrill or to get the amazement and wonder of riding a cool ride like that and being part of the adventure. You also have this small chance of being a part of it.
Yes.
Like really being a part of it. And that's cool. So good on Disney for that. So again, 384 possible experiences. If they're running all of them, they may not be always running all of them. A lot of times they focus on certain aspects to give you certain ones because they're promoting certain movies or whatever it is. But potentially 384 possible experiences. That's pretty amazing. You have a 40-inch height requirement. So if you're littler than 40 inches, sorry, so bad. Get on your tippy toes, get some loafer shoes or stand on your dad's shoes, whatever. But 40 inches is the height limit. Also, no wheelchair access. And there are fast passes, and max passes, of course. So use that to your advantage. And they are recommending that no expecting mothers ride this ride. So it isn't really violent. It isn't really a big movement kind of an experience of a ride, but it's on Disney's official website that they discourage and don't recommend expecting mothers to ride this. So
it's pretty jerky.
So we recommend that as well. All right.
So make sure to do child swap if you do have a younger child. Mom can wait in the line with everyone else, and then as you get up to the front, mom or somebody and the little child can walk all the way through the simulator and wait at the exit, and then when everyone else is ready to get off, a couple people can get back on and ride it the second time and not have to wait in line again. So make sure you use child swap if you do that.
Perfect. And other things to look for while you're waiting in the queue is you can find the old Rex robot, which was the pilot. And because this edition of the ride is set before the first edition that came out, even though it's called The Adventure Continues, whatever, it's confusing. But Rex hadn't been invented yet or hadn't been finalized to be a pilot yet. So he is sitting in the queue with a box that's labeled send back because it's defective or something to that effect. And so Rex is in beta basically, but he will sometimes shoot out and spout out lines from his original when he was originally the captain of the ship, and that's kind of fun. Also, you can find some hidden Mickeys in the line, so look out for those. At one point, you walk by a video screen that looks like just people in the airport walking back, or the spaceport walking back and forth, and that's kind of fun to watch because you get people in their robes or you get robots, and there's also a hidden Mickey in there as well. So watch for that. So that's kind of fun. That's one of our favorite rides at Disneyland. Easily one of our go-to rides to start with. Usually Space Mountain is first after the railroad. And then and then we usually jump into Star Tours because it's not super busy yet at that point. But there you go. So Astro Orbiter, the cool spinner ride at the very entrance of Tomorrowland, and then Star Tours, The Adventure Continues, and then in our next video next week we'll talk about we'll probably go to Space Mountain and we'll probably check out Buzz Lightyear. So stay tuned for that. That'll be fun, and we'll give you lots of hits and tricks and tips about that. And we'll also talk more about Tomorrowland in general. There's a lot to know about that. There's a lot of history there, and a lot of speculation as to what will happen with that land. There are people talking that they may just demolish all of it, except for Space Mountain. They'll probably keep Space Mountain, but everything else might just go.
Because tomorrow is hard to keep up with.
Yeah. So in Disneyland Paris, it's called Discoveryland, and something like that is even easier to maintain and keep timeless. So that's pretty cool. All right. Well, thank you for joining us today. Thank you, Rachel.
You're welcome.
I love you.
Love you too.
You're beautiful.
Thank you.
I hope you enjoyed our last video with Wyatt coming off of his. I'll put a sticker up here with that. Be sure to watch Wyatt. He's hilarious. And then again, our next video next week, we'll talk about more Tomorrowland. Stay tuned. Like, share, comment, and subscribe. Thank you so much for watching Timmy Wah and what have you. And we'll see you next time.
Bye-bye.